Hello, everybody, and welcome into Senior Living Live. My name is Melissa. I hope you are having a wonderful day today. We are previewing our upcoming webinar called, Is it Dementia or Normal Aging? It is an extremely common question that we get a lot at the Arbor Company, and there is a lot of information that goes with that answer. Susan Robbins, of course, you see her there, is our point person for everything related to dementia. She will be our guest presenter for this webinar, and of course will be available to answer all of your questions. And she joins me today to give us a preview of what you can expect in this webinar. So we're going to dive a little bit into this. We won't take up all of the things that will be in the webinar, Susan, but it is good to see you. How are you today?
I am doing great, and I'm so excited to get to have this presentation because people do have so many questions.
Yes, they do. We get this a lot. So let's start at the beginning here. There are a lot of different types of cognitive issues that people can suffer from. So what are some of the biggest misconceptions that people have about dementia?
The biggest thing I see is life is not over when you have a diagnosis of dementia. People still function with just adjustments to their life or their process of doing things. There are many people living in the early stages of dementia that still have jobs and are successful. They're still caring for their loved ones or their grandchildren if they're older. Sometimes they just need a little bit of adjustment. So it's not that sentence that life is over. You can still be a very productive individual living with dementia and still find many joys in life.
Yeah, and I think that a lot of people, when they get that initial diagnosis, that's the fear, right? That, oh my gosh, my life is over, but it's not. And so, I agree with you that it's probably the biggest misconception that people have. And so that's why we want people to be a part of this webinar so that they can get that kind of information from you and all of the knowledge that you have about dementia. So there are a lot of different types of dementia, 70 different types, maybe more. What forms tend to be the most commonly diagnosed, Susan, and what do those symptoms look like?
So, well, the most common type we hear about the most is Alzheimer's, which is literally a process of going from a fully functioning individual to slowly not being able to do things cognitively and then eventually physically. But you still can do things and still find joy in different things. I think also with vascular dementia and Lewy bodies and then frontal temporal lobe, memory impairment is not what happens first with all of those different types of dementia. It's your ability to reason and sequence things. And if you can't reason or problem solve, then little things create frustrations. And that's where, if you know somebody living with dementia, you can jump in and set things up for them to be successful and still feel good in life. Instead of questioning the things they're doing, find ways for them to do it.
Yeah, and that's a really good start probably too, to also differentiate the difference between what is normal aging and what really is truly dementia. And so can we talk about that a little bit? How can somebody know if it is just normal aging or if it's something more serious?
Well, if you feel uncomfortable yourself, it's always good to get checked out and by a neurologist. So I'm going to kind of start there. But most of us, I won't say all, but most of us have walked into a room and gone, what did I come in here for? Guys, that's normal. That could be you've got a lot going on or it just wasn't that important, but you walked in to the room to get something or do something. And you can go back and say, okay, I'm going to go back and track my steps of what I was doing. What was I doing before I came in here? And you can recall that information. It's when you don't have the ability to know to go back and backtrack to figure out what it was. Or the fact that you don't remember becomes overwhelming to you. Instead of just, can't believe I can't remember what I came in here for. That's not a big deal. But when it starts to become emotionally fearful and a big concern to someone, then it probably is some form of dementia or something else going on that needs to be checked out.
Got it. So then how can one be sure? So what kind of test, if any, can be done to definitively diagnose somebody with dementia?
Well, there's a lot, we've made a lot of stride over the past few years with different kinds of tests that can be done, both through a conversation, medical test, as a blood test can tell different things. But finding the right neuro doctor to help you through that. You need a neurologist that understands for seniors geriatrics, because so they can determine the things between what is normal aging and what might be a sign of some form of dementia.
Got it. But the first step really is getting to that doctor, right? And then I think that first step is usually the hardest, isn't it?
You know, it is the hardest because you don't want that diagnosis. Unfortunately, there is still such a stigma attached to it. Mm-hmm. But if you have conversations with those living with early dementia, the earlier stages, they caught it early, and even the mid stages, having that diagnosis is actually, as painful as it is to share, it gives that individual the ability, when they are clear thinking, to understand why things are the way they are. And it actually decreases anxiety after the initial shock.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's actually, for all of you listening out there, it's a good thing. Again, it's not something we want to hear. I don't know of any diagnosis that anybody wants to hear that is negatively going to impact their lives. But again, just as with anything else, the sooner you know, the sooner you can take action for it. So Susan, as we wind down here, who should tune in to this webinar October 12th?
Actually, anybody and everybody.
Okay.
Because understanding that creates the opportunity for you to have patience and understand someone living with dementia, whether it is a family member, a coworker, which I know a lot of people are going, a coworker? Yes, even a coworker. Because if we know they have the diagnosis, we can learn how to make the exceptions and the adjustments to their life to make them better, because we still have a fully functioning brain. So we can make the adjustments instead of trying to bring them back to what they were at one point.
Perfect. Well, as always, we definitely look forward to this webinar. All of your webinars are so informative and our viewers get so much out of your webinars. Susan, we look forward to seeing you October 12th at 3 p.m. Eastern Time.
Thank you. Look forward to it.